Hi guys, we're live. Welcome to this super special edition of Virtual Write-In because we have a super special guest star. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh yeah, I am Grant Faulkner, Executive Director of NaNoWriMo. I don't really know that I'm a super special guest star, but I appreciate Lena billing me that way. Yeah. Thank you.
So if you've never been to a Virtual Write-In before, this is not my usual co-host. I'm Lena, by the way. So Maddie,
and this is Vladi.
Yeah, this is
Vladi.
Yes.
Is the special guest.
Vladi is the real special guest. So Maddie is at Disney. She's at Disneyland. She's running a 10K, I believe, today that she has planned for a while. She's been like training for. So she's getting exercise, and we're sitting here and writing.
Our own kind of exercise.
Yeah.
NaNoWriMo exercise.
Hopefully you guys enjoy Grant being here.
If not, we'll refund.
Yeah.
The admission. Yes, admission price.
So if you've never seen a Virtual Write-In before, they're an hour long. We chat, we give advice, we take comments from you guys, we do some sprints. It's a good time usually. Mm-hmm. And if you have been here before, welcome back. Hopefully you're having a good Thursday. Hopefully you're getting there with your word counts. We're both a little behind.
Some would say way behind.
Yeah. I still have about 11,000 words, which is how many I had last time I saw you guys.
And I am a little bit more than half of that. I'm at 6,877. I've had my worst first week of NaNoWriMo ever.
So you're still staying positive, though.
Yeah, I'm staying positive. I'm in there. This is like the crucial week, too, when even if you're at 6,877 words, you shouldn't think that I'm behind and I'm going to quit. This is the exact moment to dig in, make that extra pot of coffee, and keep going. So, yeah. So
Grant's, his low word count is just inspiring you guys.
Yeah,
so
it's meant to be.
Yeah.
Check in with me on November 30th, and you'll see me cross the 50,000 word count line.
So definitely don't feel bad if you're behind, because we are, and we're still trying.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, exactly.
And to get ahead.
Yeah. And if you are on track or if you're ahead, then props to you, because
definite props to you. Stay ahead. Stay ahead.
Yeah, definitely do not quit while you're ahead.
Lead. Keep drinking this super NASA tea.
So I don't have a drink today, but whatever. Wow, I'm seeing a lot of people checking in with their word counts. A lot of people with more than 20,000 words. That's super awesome.
27,000 words by Chalk Lover 1098. It's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
So if
I see some that have hit the wall. So hitting the wall. That's a popular phrase, to hit the wall. Mm-hmm. But I think the thing is don't bounce off of that wall, right? Break through the wall. You can break through.
Yeah.
Today, just by putting your hands on the keyboard, one word at a time.
There are no walls.
There are no walls.
Only doors that you haven't unlocked.
Exactly. There we go. That is if you can leave with one quote, that is it, right?
Yeah.
Good.
All right. So, in order to get you through that door, we're gonna start with our traditional 5-minute opening sprint, and this is usually our open-ended one, but today, as last time, we have a little optional prompt for you guys, and that is, we do complicated for a living. So that was credit to Myloe for that. Thank you. Because Maddie usually comes up with them, and she's not here, so I need a little help. But so you can use that as dialogue, as just like a plot device, as however you want to interpret. T-shirt slogan. However you want to interpret. We do complicated for a living. So remember that that's optional, and you don't at all have to use that. But if you want to, then extra props to you. So that's 5 minutes. All right, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
That's my first line. We do complicated for a living.
All right.
Just get it out of the way, and then we build on it.
All right. Ready, set, go. All right, stop. There we go. How'd you do?
I did pretty well. I love that theme. It led to so many interesting places, little doorways that opened when I thought I was hitting a wall.
Good, good.
And yeah, I got 177 words, which I'm very pleased by. Oh, how about you?
I got 155.
All right, we're kind of the same
Yeah.
pace of writer. I bet
Yeah.
people in the chat got like 10,074.
Yeah, a lot of people in 200 range.
Okay. Yeah, we're all very similar. Look at Merlin. I see a 299, but I couldn't see who that was.
Yeah, it goes super fast.
231 by Sarah Jones. Go Sarah. 232, Eliza.
So did you guys incorporate We Do Complicated for a Living? I ended up incorporating it.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
You gonna share how, or?
I can.
You don't have to.
I will. So this is how I incorporated it.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of context.
Mm-hmm.
My character is my main character for the short story. I'm doing a series of short stories.
Uh-huh.
She's in a band, and the guy who started the band calls her to tell her that that they got picked up by a record label. So he tried to explain to me how everything would go down, how we'd get there, and what they told him and what the future looked like. I told him it all sounded a little complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he said, now we do complicated for a living. So
Cool.
that's how I incorporated it. Do you want to share
Cool.
what you did, or if you did?
I think.
You don't have to.
Yeah. I somehow just imagined a couple who were living at one of their parents' house as they were 33 years old, and they were mooching off their parents. That's what made their life uncomplicated.
Mm-hmm.
They had food and shelter provided, and everything was uncomplicated until they were asked by their parents' friends, "What do you do for a living?"
Mm.
And the main character, my narrator, says, "We should have said we're uncomplicated people. We do uncomplicated things, like not pay for room and board and drink other people's whiskey and refill the bottles with watered down Coke." And then, of course, with questions like that, gets into a whole kind of thematic exploration of what's complicated and what's uncomplicated. And they had to move into a life of complications, and then I didn't get to explore that anymore. But yeah, that's where I am.
That's a lot to explore in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was great. I want to write this as a short story.
Good. Glad you like it. So it sounds like people liked the prompt. Yeah, so some cool things from that.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that kind of warmed you guys up, got you back into the swing of writing, helped open some doors.
Yeah,
I hear with that metaphor.
History Nerd says, I incorporated the prompt, which was really helpful for the chapter I was beginning, as I had no idea what I was going to do. A door opened. Good.
I like that. Cool. So let's start into our first discussion.
All right.
So our first, I forgot to say, our theme for the day is flight course.
Mm-hmm.
A little space tie-in. So our first discussion topic is genre.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have a lot of people doing a lot of different genres in Nano. We have a lot of different genre options on the site. You can put in whatever you want, and
you can write any genre you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the only place on the planet you can do that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this a little bit because the question that you posed to me, Lena, was what makes different genres unique?
Mm-hmm.
And what are the unique challenges that come from each one? When I was thinking about that, I could, what makes them unique was less interesting to me than what makes them the same. Because I think like telling a story, there's so many similarities no matter what genre you're writing in.
Yeah.
So I thought of this quote by Tolstoy, who said, "All great literature is one of two stories. A man goes on a journey." Sorry for the sexist use of man there by Tolstoy. But a man goes on a journey, or a stranger comes to town. And I think it's like that really distills what a lot of stories are about, because they are about exploration, and then when you leave town or come to town, they are about a disruption in your environment. And so I think of like genre as being, you can walk down a whole block of houses, and and the structure of those houses are all pretty similar, but they're all different, you know?
Yeah.
Like one might have been built in 1890 and another one might have been built in 1960. So sometimes I think genre is more about the sort of adornments or the framework around the story, but the story is so similar in terms of like how you're pursuing your story, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of thinking about it. I think that like there's an expectation that like with different genres comes different audiences, and I don't necessarily like that, because I think it's very much a if you build it they will come thing. That you know, like for example, like a lot of people I see are writing young adult books who are in the chat, and you know I know plenty of people who are not young adults who read YA, plenty of YA. My mom, for example, she might be watching.
And your mom, Lena's mom might be watching. We should do a special call out. Hello, Anne. I don't know you, but please join the conversation in the chat. Lena's a wonderful intern. That's evident. But yeah, okay, sorry.
So yeah, my mom reads a lot of YA, and so I think that if you've defined your novel into a genre, like mine's mainstream realistic, that doesn't mean you need to like conform to like what's right for that genre.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I think sometimes like we get too hung up on like what's right. And especially I think it can become even more enforced like when you're writing a genre, because there's so many expectations about the whole history of that genre and what you've read. I think some of the best things like actually leap out of that framework and challenge the framework of the genre. I think that's what's so cool, especially with NaNoWriMo, because you're writing so fast, opening up so many doors. You know, you can go beyond what the traditional expectations are.
Yeah, and it's a lot of times it can be hard for people to like find where their novel fits like in one of our genre labels, because you know we ask people to put a genre label, and a lot of people are like, my novel is a combination of all of these, or it's none of these, or so you know we do have the other option where you can put in your own, but you know a lot of people are like, oh, does my novel have to be this to you know in order for me to call it this genre? And no, if you think it's that genre, it's that genre.
Another very quotable Lena. We're gonna put up Lena's quotes later.
Lena quotes.
Make an ebook.
Hashtag Lena quotes.
Yeah.
They love hashtags in the chat.
Okay. Hashtag Lena.
Hashtag Lena quotes.
Yeah. I'm gonna read some of the chat here.
But if you are, I think we talked about this in another episode. Like if you're writing a genre you're not super used to, definitely think of novels you like that are in that genre and like borrow things from them, or apply what you've learned from other genres to this new genre. So like personally, like I don't write that much fantasy. I know a lot of you guys are writing fantasy, and guys, stop spelling my name wrong.
A lot of hashtag Lena quotes. All right, we have a internet meme in its beginning stages here.
But if I were to all of a sudden get this fantasy idea, like I definitely personally would want to like do a little more reading of some fantasy novels before I just jumped into Fantasy of November, because I'm
going to counter that a little bit. I mean, I think that that's great advice, but I also think that some people think they have to do like too much research, like that they can't write sci-fi because they're not scientists and because they have to go find out what life on Mars is like. And I think like a lot of the great liberty of writing fiction is that we get to imagine these things. And so if you haven't written fantasy before but want to, just by starting out with no background in it, you might actually redefine it or do interesting new things because you haven't been influenced. So so definitely get inspired to break out of that
like the genres you always do. Like I'm like such a hypocrite because I write nothing but like realistic ever.
But you're gonna write fantasy next time. I'm gonna challenge you to write a fantasy story in your short story collection. How about that?
But they're like they all have to be realistic because they're like tied together.
Fantasy's realistic.
Well, okay.
It depends how you look at it.
Touche, Grant. All right. I do have a little like, they each, I feel like each of my short stories do take on different aspects of different genres. I have as I talked about last time, I have some that are more like romance, I guess, because they're like love stories, and some of them, one that are more mystery
Now
ones.
that's fantasy there.
Yeah. You know, and yeah, people are encouraging me to write fantasy.
Yeah, people are doing it. Do it.
Yeah. Well, I see, because I do 30 covers 30 days. I'm in charge of that, so I see all of the different, like the breakdown of the different genres, and definitely a lot of fantasy ones and a lot of sci-fi. And I'm just like, I read these summaries that people submit, and they're just like so cool. And I'm like, where did you come up with that? Like, I never think of doing fantasy.
I was gonna say, Fire 23 Fairy says sometimes fantasy is harder than realistic because you have to create the world.
Oh, it's so much harder. Yeah. To the people who are doing world building, whether you're doing fantasy or you're doing a realistic type thing that still is a fake city and requires world building, like, shout out to you. Maybe I don't do fantasy because I'm scared.
And then Radical Bacon says all fiction is fantasy, which is where I am too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, write what you want.
Yeah.
Don't get caught up on genres, but
definitions.
You know. So that's your philosophical inspiration for today. But you know, there's the other part of this is what are the unique challenges that come with each genre.
Well, you know, I think fantasies or sci-fi, I've heard a lot of writers who tell me that they feel a burden of research. And it depends on how you define, like, how much real science, how much hard science you want your story to revolve around. You know, so I think there's like an expectation there that a lot of people grapple with. But you know, I think, like, you know, if you take a genre like mystery, I think every story is a mystery. You know, you're just putting it within a different framework of, you know, a kind of whodunit in that genre.
Yeah, I think some genres traditionally require more planning than others. You know, things like mysteries. You know, or maybe you the author are finding things out at the same time as the characters. You know, if you want to do it that way, definitely go for it. That's fun. There is like I guess, like, school of thought of like write first, research later. Like, you can correct. There's some famous author who I was listening to talk about this. But you can correct what is wrong about your research by doing research afterwards.
Don't let that hinder you.
If you do all your research before, you're just going to keep doing research and never actually write anything down. So
that's a hazard.
Yeah.
Do we have any more writing prompts?
Yeah. So we have. So this one is kind of an obvious for this one. So for your second sprint, which is going to be 10 minutes, the prompt is to write in a different genre. Again, you don't have to follow this, but try to branch out. Try to, like, take on some of the characteristics of another genre, even if, like, you don't have to totally change where your novel is going, but take on some of the characteristics that are more typical of a different genre. You might be writing fantasy, like, and you could do a section in the style of a noir crime novel.
That would be cool.
You know? So just try to have fun. Again, you don't have to. And yeah, so this is.
You could even use the first prompt and combine it with this one.
Yeah. So definitely try to confront your fears. And just have fun with this.
That's the key.
Yeah. A lot of people are saying they're going to do romance. Totally go for it.
That's a good idea. Let's do a group romance rating.
Group romance.
Yeah.
All right. So have fun branching out into another genre. Take some risks.
Yeah.
Open up some doors.
Yeah.
All right. So this is a 10-minute.
Sci-fi romance.
This is a 10-minute sprint. Ready, set, go.
All right.
All right, stop. All right, how many words did you get?
I'm doing a count right now. I 313, which is. What about you?
I got 318. Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, we have the exact same pace. Maybe it's because we're sitting on the same couch or something.
Maybe it's the couch.
Bobby never writes any of this.
Slacker. What genre did you choose?
I chose romance.
Romance,
and
really?
it was less about romance than romantic complications, I think, which are maybe more fun for me to write about. But I think that I changed it from we do complicated for a living to I do complicated for a living. And it was fun. It was super fun. Just even if this isn't quite romance, at least like since I don't write romance, it was fun just to open that door to another genre. Yeah. How about you?
I did fantasy.
All right.
I tried it. I did a dream sequence.
All right. Did it feel good? Did you feel like you can do fantasy? How did you feel about it?
I feel like what I would get hung up on, I feel like, first of all, like, I'd have to do a lot of world building beforehand.
Yeah.
If I were to do a fantasy novel next year, people are excited.
I know. People are excited.
Um,
Hashtag Lena Does Fantasy.
So I feel like I'd have to do a lot of world building. And
Mhm.
I mean, like, my writing's really dialogue heavy. And
You can do that in fantasy.
And yeah, I know. But however, I feel like fantasy, like I would have to do, I think, like an urban fantasy because
Okay.
like of the style that my dialogue always turns out, no matter like when I try to set my novel, is very, very contemporary.
Mhm.
So I feel like I'd have to do like an urban fantasy type thing.
Mhm.
But I'm not as opposed to it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it's great. I'm reading some of the, you got a hashtag Lena Hates Fantasy.
I don't hate fantasy.
So I'm trying to look through the comments here. How did other people do? 302 from Musical Twilight Dork. Love that handle. I think a lot of people were reporting earlier.
502 from Jessica Hunt.
Woo!
Awesome.
Way to
That's
go.
Crazy. 399 from Emily Bear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really good, guys.
444 from Eliza.
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca got 263.
So what genres did you guys switch from and to, and how did it go? Interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to see some genres here.
Yeah.
Here's a good question though. What genre doesn't require world building or dialogue?
Well, yeah, I feel like every genre is pretty.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. I mean, if you want, you could write an entire novel and have no dialogue at all.
You could. It's been done, I think,
Yeah.
but I couldn't name the novel.
You could.
Sci-fi to comedy.
Sci-fi to comedy from Playful Ghost.
Mm-hmm. Noirish with dinosaurs. I like that one.
Aurora Lane went from dystopian fantasy to romance mystery.
Mm-hmm. These are coming in fast. I can't read them.
Yeah, it seems by.
Yeah, magic realism to noir from What Theory. I love that too. I love this cross genre.
A lot of people trying to do noir. That's so cool.
I wonder if anybody has like a sentence or something that actually combines that we can tell that it's noir and fantasy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's hard to do.
Did anyone switch in the middle of a sentence?
Yeah. Like, I love you. Oh my gosh, we're on Mars.
I love you, but I have to go to Mars now.
Yeah. Sorry, the spaceship's leaving. And there's a dragon here.
They landed on Mars to see a dragon.
Yeah. We're simplifying things.
Hopefully you guys had fun. Endo Chime said the characters are dealing with real life problems even though they're still in space.
Exactly.
So
exactly. Switch. I think there's been too little romance in space, maybe.
Yeah, I think space romance needs to be a bigger represented genre. Anyone here writing a space romance? Props to you. Groundbreaking.
Somebody said, "What is the noir genre?" Do you have? That's from Grace, the girl upstairs. What would you define the noir genre as, Lena?
Well, noir is a type of stylized, usually like mystery crime novel. Noir was mostly there's a very large film noir movement.
A lot of rain.
Yeah. Lots of rain.
Chinatown. Somebody says Patrick Carr. That's a good example.
So there are a lot. If you guys want to give example of noir movies, I should know more, but
that's good.
You know, like you have a lot of character archetypes, like the femme fatale. You have
Casablanca. Ricky says.
I'm only good at defining noir cinematographically because I'm a cinematographer. Right. So I was just gonna be like, weird lighting and Venetian blinds and like tracking shots, and I was like, that doesn't apply to novels.
Holly Rose says we were drunk with love and being mauled by robots.
Perfect, thank you, Holly.
Hashtag Mars Dragon Romance.
Yeah,
right, we're getting a whole noir discussion going.
Yeah,
the Maltese Falcon, Big Sleep, Raymond Chandler there. Raymond Chandler has one of my favorite writing advice. Per the hitting the wall, he says like when you have an obstacle, just have a person enter the room with a gun. So if you hit
Well,
the wall,
that's,
introduce conflict.
was a very big checkoff thing. It's like if you introduce the gun,
It has to go off.
has to go off.
You're right, they go together.
Yeah. So want to jump into our second topic, which is not as writing fundamental based. It's more nano based.
It is, but it's also one of the most important topics for a writer.
So balancing real life and nano, or just real life and writing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to start us off? I think you have a lot of experience with that. Also, as a parent, I don't have that experience.
You know what? I feel like the number one thing I hear from people when I talk to them about NaNoWriMo is they always say, sounds great, but I don't have the time to do it, because I'm too busy. And I feel like everyone thinks they're too busy, and that you can't tell yourself that, or you won't make creativity a priority, or you'll never write that novel. And that's why we exist. Don't write that novel someday, write it today. And I think like busyness is oftentimes, or lack of time is oftentimes a perception. And so I do this yearly as a routine before Nano. I go on a time hunt, and I literally sketch out like the way I spend time for a week, how much time I spend on social media, how much TV I watch, how long it takes me to get to work. And it's amazing how much time there is available to me if I cut certain things out, and become really aware of how much time, like the 5-minute foray onto Facebook usually goes 15 minutes or half an hour, And so I think that if you get disciplined about it, you can find time to write. And also, I actually just have to wake up an hour earlier this month. I haven't done it yet.
That's dedication.
I'm gonna start doing it.
I like my sleep.
Or stay up an hour later.
Or stay up an hour later.
Or write during your lunch break.
Yeah.
Or attend a virtual write-in. Or all the above, right?
Fuchsia Cran said, I don't sleep. I write about my characters sleeping. Funny.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are talking about balancing school and nano, which also, which I have a lot of experience with.
That's a really tough one, I think, because you're doing so much reading and writing anyway.
Yeah.
Not that a lot of us don't do it on our jobs, but it's a tough thing to layer onto your existing schedule.
Well, I would, in high school, I did this all the time. I would carry a notebook with me and write in between classes. I'd write during class. Pay attention to your classes, guys. But
I think that's a great writing advice, though, because I do that too.
Yeah.
And I think like having that notebook with you, you can catch all those, like I call them the nooks and crannies of the day. Yeah. Like the 5 minutes, like when I pull up to work, oftentimes I'll just sit in my car for 5 minutes and write my novel, within my notebook. So I think there's a lot of ways, like you can steal time.
Yeah.
Steal time.
Yeah, I write, so I usually stay up until midnight and start Nano at midnight, but this year I was very tired and so I didn't. And so what I did that morning was because I take the train to work. So as I was waiting for my train, and then when I was on it, I wrote on my phone because the train is crowded and there's less space to write physically. So I wrote on my phone, and I wrote my first 200, 300 words on my phone, and that's become a routine this month. That's when I've written on my phone, and I do not recommend writing on your phone because I'm really bad at it. But a
lot of people like it though.
Yeah.
I'm not a great phone writer either, but I am impressed by how technology keeps coming out that helps make writing easier.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of great software apps for writing on the phone. Somebody says, let me see, Introvert Cupcake says I do Nano in the evenings, but I shut it off at midnight.
Yeah. A lot of, some people enjoy writing in the morning. Some people enjoy writing at night, whenever they feel most creative. Find what works for you and try to build extra time into that. Don't force yourself to get up an hour early if you're not a morning person. That's not going to be
That's really good advice. My wife is not a morning person, but she oftentimes tries to wake up with me and finds it unproductive. So I think that's one great thing about NaNoWriMo is it's a creative experiment, and you're experimenting with your creative process. And so you got to find what works for you so that you can take it forward.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of people sort of plan their November around NaNoWriMo. If they know that they're doing it, they kind of try to think, I have off school for Thanksgiving break. I can catch up then, if I'm busy with midterms or whatever it is.
A lot of people write on their phone. We got a
Yeah.
lot.
Well, props to you. I'm terrible at
A
it.
good phone conversation here.
Mhm.
I was looking for one quote. One person was writing about how she wrote while she nursed a baby.
Oh, props to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. As always, props to people doing this while in school. Props to parents doing Nano.
But you know, the thing is, like, we're always in school or we're always working.
Yeah.
Like, very few people have big expanses of time available to them to write a novel. And if you're going to do anything in life that's like a big achievement or that, you know, to make creativity priority, you just got to put that whole, like, I don't have time and just shove it aside and do it. Yeah,
and even if one day you only get like 5 words in, or one day you don't get any words in, you know.
So just in these word sprints, that first word sprint we wrote for 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And you
and
I,
5 minutes,
you and I who are like slow writers, we got like 150 plus words.
Yeah.
So 5 minutes, 150 words. If you do that every day in the month of November, what do you get? Like 5,000 words?
Yeah.
Just 5 minutes a day.
That's still more than you would have had if you hadn't tried.
Yeah. So I mean, that's it. Like in a nook and cranny of the day, in a little pocket, you can find a way to write.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go to our third sprint.
Our third sprint.
So this one, our prompt, this is going to be 10 minutes. Our prompt for this one is write a scene in which time is an important factor. So giving some examples, you have a character who's late to something. Maybe they're waiting for something and they want time to pass. Maybe, you know, it's a section in which time jumps forward like crazy.
Time travel seems natural.
Time travel, yeah. If you're going with the sci-fi thing. So just incorporate time into your novel. Or not. It's up to you.
Or maybe this time the scene goes backwards, like one of those movies that you start at the end.
Yeah, I love nonlinear things. I talk about that a lot.
Yeah. Time is interesting in novels.
Yeah, so play around with the sense of time in your novel. All right, so ready, set, go.
All right.
All right, stop.
How did you do, Lena?
Let me see how many words I got.
I bet we have the same exact number of words. Wouldn't that be a good finish?
Let's see. I have 384.
Close. 364.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
But I want to say, you know, I've got my total word count here, 856 for this whole session, which is about half the amount that you need to write in a day.
Yeah, that's great.
Per Nano. So that's,
Yeah.
pretty good.
Wow. Going by. Samantha Rose got 463.
Clover Brooks, 532. Go Clover.
A lot of people in 200 range. Awesome. Zahara Lyman got the same as I did, which is nice.
Jose Moreno up to 3,600 words. I'm assuming that's for the session, maybe?
Hopefully not. Just the spend. That's crazy. So how did you incorporate time into yours?
You know what?
Did you?
I did, and I think I have a whole new novel series going right now, which started out as that vague romance premise, but I wove it into a very typical thing about how characters are defined by their relationship to time, and a lot of relationships, love stories are as well. One person tends to be late, the other person tends to be punctual. So it's about their well, I can't go back into the backstory of what I wrote earlier, but it's of course about one person getting into an argument. A very funny argument, though, I have to say. So there is comedy in this.
Good.
One's waiting for the other to get ready for a party. Yeah, and that's essentially the first sign that they're going to break up in the end. Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah.
As I said, I was writing a dream sequence, and so I had my character wake up from her fantasy dream and have quite a difficult time sleeping the rest of the night. Like she attempts to go back to this dream, which she really enjoyed having, and like closes her eyes, and it's like then opens them, and it's like 2 hours later, and then she barely can sleep for the rest of the night, and then so she just her whole sense of time is really weird for that night because
of the dream.
Yeah.
Did you describe the dream?
Yeah, that was the whole fantasy section.
Oh, okay.
And then it's interesting how like in a meta sense I played with time as well, because that whole section is like takes place within a night, and then immediately after she just sort of jumps past the next couple days. So that was cool.
That's great. One person's I had an adrenaline-induced slow motion section.
I like that. They slowed down time.
Valkyrie Freets, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, good stuff. People are sharing their lines now too.
So, time to start wrapping it up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know the hour like blows past. So remember to join us next Tuesday. Maddie will be back.
Special guest Maddie.
We might have more special guests in the future. We'll see.
J.K. Rowling might come.
Yeah, J.K. Rowling might come. You know,
trying to get her.
George R.R. Martin. Yeah, he'll be showing
he's
up.
busy writing.
Yeah, you know.
We could help him though.
Yeah,
we could help him finish that last. Yeah. He should come.
He should do Nano. Yeah. So remember, if you want your comments, suggestions, lines that you wrote to stay here permanently, make sure to type them in the comments, not in the chat, because the chat will go away. You can also post in our forum topic, which is in Word Wars Prompts and Sprints. Feel free to nano mail me with suggestions for prompts, just suggestions for special guests, whatever you want. So thank you so much for joining us today, Grant.
Does everyone know about our WordSprint tool on the website?
Do you want to? They probably do. You want to?
I think we should just part with that. We have this fantastic WordSprint tool, so you can do this beyond our virtual write-ins right on the website. You can invite other people. You can invite everyone who attended this, I think.
Yeah, you guys can do a giant group WordSprint together.
WordSprint, yeah.
All right, so thank you guys for joining us. I will see you on Tuesday. Grant will see you guys eventually.
Maybe Tuesday.
Maybe. Just come back every time.
Yeah.
All right, bye guys.
Bye-bye.